I never thought the day would come when I, Cardinal Luis Antonio Tagle, would stand before you, not in peace but in protest, not in unity but in righteous defiance. Pope Leo XIV, you have led the Church astray in the shortest time you have occupied the position of authority. Your words divide, your actions betray the poor. Your silence in the face of injustice shakes the very foundations of our faith. I have prayed, I have waited, but no more. The time for patience is over. Now, not as one man, but as a servant of God's people, for Pope Leo XIV to step down, to relinquish a throne he has tarnished, to make way for a shepherd who will truly tend to his flock. The world is watching, history will judge, and I will not stand idle while the Church I love crumbles under failed leadership. Your Eminence, for the sake of the faithful, for the future of our Church, resign, now to save your prestige. These were the strong words of Cardinal Tagle as he calls for removal of Pope Leo XIV. Watch till the end to get the full details. Do well to subscribe to our channel.
Be like a seismic event, but not in the Earth. Inside one of the world's oldest institutions, the Catholic Church. We're talking about a really dramatic confrontation, something that challenges the very idea of papal authority.
Yeah, it's truly striking how quickly things like this can escalate. Suddenly you get a glimpse behind the curtain, into dynamics that are usually kept very, very quiet. And this isn't just about personalities clashing. It really goes to the heart of the Church's direction.
And what a story it is shaping up to be. Today, we're doing a deep dive into something truly stunning. A revelation that sent shockwaves, really, from St. Peter's Square right across the globe. Cardinal Tagle's call, totally unprecedented for the removal of Pope Leo XIV. We'll look at who's involved, the history, what it all means for Catholicism. We're drawing on articles, research, reports, trying to piece together this unfolding crisis. So, let's start right at the epicenter of this Vatican earthquake, as some are calling it. You've probably seen the headlines. Cardinal Luis Antonio Tagle, he made a formal declaration, a bold one, calling for Pope Leo XIV's removal. How exactly did that happen?
Right. And this wasn't some quiet suggestion, not at all. It happened very publicly, very dramatically at a press conference, right there at the Sala Stampa, the Vatican's press office. Cardinal Tagle laid out his case, and he used a specific term from canon law, Sede Impedita.
Sede Impedita. Okay, that's the canonical term, right? It refers to a situation where the Pope is somehow prevented from doing his job, like maybe imprisonment or perhaps total incapacity. So he makes this monumental statement. What was the immediate reaction inside the Church? I mean, that must have landed like a bomb.
Oh, absolutely. The reaction was immediate, and it was profound. His declaration got this outpouring of support, surprisingly strong support, from quite a significant number of cardinals, within the College of Cardinals itself. That public show of support just made everything even more complicated. It really highlighted how deep these divisions actually run.
Okay, to really understand what's at stake here, we need to know the people right at the center of this. Let's start with Cardinal Luis Antonio Tagle. Who is he? What's his background?
Cardinal Tagle, yeah. His journey is really quite something. From Manila right into the Vatican's inner circle. He was born in Manila, ordained a priest, became Bishop of Imus back in 2001, then Archbishop of Manila in 2011, and since 2020, he's been the prefect of the Dicastery for Evangelization. That's a huge role, basically heading up the Church's global missionary work. So he has enormous influence worldwide.
And he's got that nickname Asian Francis, right?
Yeah.
Because people see similarities between him and Pope Francis in their approach, their values. His influence clearly goes beyond just his job title. He's a major player in Vatican decisions.
Exactly. And then you have Pope Leo IV. His papacy, only 3 years old, has been pretty controversial right from the start, hasn't it? His election after Pope Francis was unexpected by many, and it was seen immediately as a big shift, a move in a much more conservative direction. And those policy changes followed pretty quickly.
Right. And when we say conservative shifts, we're talking about specific things that affect people directly. Like under Pope Leo XIV, clerical celibacy was strongly reaffirmed. That's different from Pope Francis, who seemed open to discussing it at least. And women's roles in the Church, more limited participation, kind of a step back from the progressive inclusion we saw developing under Francis. And his stance on euthanasia remained very strict, unlike Francis's more cautious dialogue approach.
Yes, and perhaps the most significant move was putting out that apostolic constitution, Veritatis Splendor II. Now, this wasn't just another document. It really felt like it aimed to roll back some of the theological flexibility that had grown since Vatican II. It sent a very clear signal about reasserting traditionalist views, limiting progressive interpretations. It's more than just policy. It challenges the whole direction, the kind of intellectual and spiritual currents that figures like Tagle see as vital for the church engaging with today's world.
So you have these really stark differences in vision simmering away. What were the specific triggers? What pushed this tension right to the boiling point now?
Well, there are several things happening internally. First, that synod on synodality, you remember, the big global discussion process Pope Francis started about the church's future. It ended up exposing really deep, almost irreconcilable divisions among the clergy.
Okay, so that was one factor. And then on top of that, you mentioned allegations about the Vatican Bank.
Exactly. Allegations of financial mismanagement surfaced, and that immediately raised serious questions about transparency, about accountability, right at the very top.
And wasn't there also something about a secret meeting?
Yes. Finally, there was a recent consistory of cardinals that's a formal meeting of the college, but it was held in secret. That secrecy alone just fueled all sorts of speculation. And it's widely believed now that key decisions made during that secret consistory played a crucial role, maybe the decisive role, in leading up to Tagle's public move. All these things together just strained relations inside the Vatican to the absolute breaking point.
This brings up a really fundamental question, one I'm sure many people watching this are asking. Can a pope actually be removed? I mean, doesn't that challenge the whole structure of authority?
It absolutely does. You're talking about canon law, the church's own legal system, and right at the heart of that is the idea of papal sovereignty. Basically, the pope has supreme authority, and he isn't judged by any human authority.
But there's always been this theological debate, hasn't there, about a heretical pope? Some theologians argued such a pope would automatically lose office. Others said, no, it needs a council to decide. But just comparing this to Benedict's resignation, is resignation really the same as removal for cause? What's the key legal difference that makes Tagle's move so much more explosive?
That's the crucial point. Direct removal by others is incredibly complex under canon law, maybe impossible. But we do have the very recent precedent of Pope Benedict XVI resigning in 2013, first time in almost 600 years. That showed a pope can step down. But Tagle invoking Sede Impedita is different. It implies an involuntary situation, incapacity, inability to govern. That's a completely different challenge to papal authority, legally and theologically. It's unprecedented territory, really.
Wow. So the fallout from Cardinal Tagle's announcement must be huge, both inside the Vatican and outside. What are we actually seeing in terms of reactions?
Inside the Vatican, it's like an earthquake, as you said. The Roman Curia, that's the whole administrative machinery of the Holy See, is reportedly deeply divided. You've got officials backing Tagle, others terrified of instability. We're even hearing reports that the Swiss Guard, the Pope's own security force, is facing divided loyalties. And you bet emergency meetings are happening constantly in the Apostolic Palace as the Pope's camp tries to figure out their next move.
And what about globally? How are bishops around the world reacting?
They're taking sides, pretty much reflecting those deep ideological splits in the Church. The U.S. Bishops' Conference, the USCCB, has apparently expressed support for Cardinal Tagle, stressing the need for reform. European bishops seem much more divided. But interestingly, Asian bishops' conferences have largely come out in strong support of Tagle, really emphasizing that need for a more synodal, more participatory church. And it's not just the hierarchy. You've seen images, I'm sure, of thousands of ordinary Catholics gathering in St. Peter's Square praying, and social media is just on fire, isn't it? Hashtags like #TeamTagle, #StandWithLeo. It shows how deeply this is dividing the faithful themselves.
Of course, Pope Leo XIV isn't just sitting back. He's fighting back, presumably. What's his response been?
Oh, absolutely fighting back. He gave a really dramatic Angelus address, the Sunday blessing from his window. He made this passionate plea for unity. I think he said something like, we are called to be instruments of peace, not agents of division.
A clear message there.
A very clear message. And he's also been making strategic appointments, putting loyalists into key Vatican positions. That's widely seen as trying to shore up his support to counter his critics. And then, sort of woven into all this, concerns about the Pope's health have also surfaced. The details are vague, undisclosed, but it just adds another layer of uncertainty and maybe urgency to the whole situation.
Okay, so looking beyond the immediate crisis, what's Cardinal Tagle's vision? If there were a change, what kind of Reformed church is he actually pushing for?
Well, his proposals seem focused on tackling modern challenges head-on. He's emphasizing transparency, accountability, inclusivity. That seems to mean things like improving clergy conduct, really dealing with abuse issues, also promoting greater roles for women, not just token roles, but actual decision-making positions, and tackling big social and environmental issues much more forcefully. He's also talking about big reforms to how the Vatican itself is governed, wanting a more collegiate, shared decision-making style, and crucially, transparent finances.
And you mentioned the spirit of Vatican II. That seems central to his thinking.
Very central. It's a callback to that spirit of renewal and openness from the 1960s Council. For Tagle, that seems to mean embracing dialogue with other Christians and other faiths, really prioritizing pastoral care, looking after the people, and engaging much more deeply, more thoughtfully with modern society, not retreating from it. And a lot of this is happening behind the scenes too, apparently. There are reports of secret negotiations going on at the Domus Sanctae Marthae, that's the Vatican guest house where Pope Francis lived, often used for more discreet meetings. Influential figures, maybe some neutral cardinals, are trying to broker some kind of deal. And here's a fascinating detail. Some sources are suggesting that retired Pope Benedict XVI is actually playing a key role in mediating these talks, using his unique status, perhaps.
Wow, Benedict getting involved, that adds another whole dimension. And this clearly isn't just an internal church fight anymore, is it? The whole world seems to be watching.
Absolutely. Political leaders everywhere are being very cautious in their public statements, but you know they're watching closely because of the geopolitical implications. Interfaith leaders are offering to help mediate. And incredibly, the instability is even causing ripples in financial markets. You're seeing some stock market volatility, currency fluctuations. It just shows how interconnected a crisis in an institution like the Vatican is with global affairs. It's not just spiritual. So if you step back and look at the bigger picture, this crisis really puts the Catholic Church at a major historical crossroads. These deep divisions that Tagle's call has just ripped open, they could lead to a schism, a permanent split. Or maybe, just maybe, it could force some kind of difficult path towards reconciliation and genuine renewal. It's hard to say which way it will go.
So what does this all mean for you listening, for the global Catholic community, and really for everyone else? The outcome, whatever it is going to shape the spiritual lives of millions. It's going to influence the Church's role on the world stage for generations. It feels like a moment where faith, unity, the very governance of the Church are being tested in a way we haven't seen for a very long time.
Yeah, and it raises a really important question for all of us, doesn't it? In this age of information overload, what's our responsibility as people trying to stay informed to really understand these huge historical shifts? Because they don't just impact religious institutions, they touch the fabric of global society. Looking at everything we've discussed, what stands out to you as the most significant, maybe the most surprising aspect of this whole Vatican earthquake?